بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه أجمعين، نبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المطهرين. قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إنك لن تخرق الأرض ولن تبلغ الجبال طولا. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. One day, the righteous, faithful companion of the Holy Prophet, Salman al-Muhammadi, Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh, was in discussion with a man that seemingly turned quite contentious, in that the individual and Salman were in disagreement. That man who was discussing whatever was discussed with Salman wanted to humiliate him and asked him, "Who are you? Man anta ya Salman?" Knowing that Salman's parents were perhaps Zoroastrian and that he did not belong to that area or was not part of that area. Salman responded, فَقَالَ أَمَّا أَوْلَادِي وَأَوْلَادُكَ فَنَطْفَةٌ قَذَرَةٌ فَنُطْفَةٌ قَذَرَةٌ, that my children and your children are like a dirty clot. وَأَمَّا آخِرَتِي وَآخِرَتِكَ فَجِيفَةٌ نَتِنَةٌ, that my end and your end is a stench coming from a corpse. فإذا كان يوم القيامة ووضعت الموازين فمن ثقل موازينه فهو الكريم, that on the day of judgment, when the balance is measured, whoever has a heavier right side is the one who is honorable, and whoever has a lighter right side and a heavier left side is the one who is condemned. And this is in relation to what we started to discuss last week, and that is the vice and the dangerous characteristic that is found to certain degrees with the human beings, and that's arrogance, takabbur, self-centeredness, and the egocentric thinking and practice by human beings. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam refers to this idea, عجبت لابن آدم, I'm surprised about the son of Adam, أوله نطفة وآخره جيفة, that they start with a clot, the beginning is a clot, and the end of the human being is a corpse that's gives away a stench or a smell. وَهُوَ قَائِمٌ بَيْنَهُمَا وِعَاءٌ لِلْغَائِطِ, and in between that clot and that stench, they are a carrier of their excrements. ثُمَّ يَتَكَبَّرُ, and even with that, they display arrogance. Indeed, we discussed how the arrogant are the army of shaitan, because the Qur'an says, إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ اسْتَكْبَرَ. So Iblis was, of course, the leader and continues to be of the people who are displaying pride and arrogance in that particular way. Therefore, we are told to be seeking humility and tawadu'. In other words, this tawadu' is a noble characteristic, is a virtue, is a quality of the believers that we are encouraged in the Holy Qur'an and the teachings of the Ahl al-Bayt alayhum as-salam to continuously seek, to understand and to apply into our lives. It was indeed tawadu' that was practiced and encouraged by the Ahlul Bayt alayhum salam themselves. The Prophet of Islam, peace and blessings be upon him and his progeny, one day said to some of the Muslims, "Mali la ara fi wujuhikum halawatul iman." Why is it that I don't see the sweetness of faith in you? They said, "Ya Rasulullah, wa ma halawatul iman?" What is this sweetness of iman? He said, "At-tawadhu," meaning humility, humbleness. Another narration from the Ahlul Bayt says, "Man tawadha'a lillahi rafa'ahu Allah." Whomsoever humbles themselves for the sake of Allah, Allah will elevate them. Now, elevate them in this world, it's possible, but certainly elevate them in the hereafter. And if you remember last week, we discussed how the arrogant will be resurrected so minute, so small that will be stepped by people on the day of judgment. Compare the position of the humble ones who will be raised on the day of resurrection. Amir al-Mu'mineen, peace be upon him, says, "Al-tawadhu' thamaratul ilm." That humility is the fruit of knowledge. In other words, individuals who are knowledgeable should display humility. Those who claim to have knowledge should be the humble ones. That's the fruit of their knowledge. So if you see individuals who claim to be scholars, or those who have displayed some kind of understanding, yet they have arrogant characteristics, that know that they are not true scholars, because the knowledge has not impacted them, let alone will it impact others. This idea is clearly demonstrated in the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, "Ra'sul khair al-tawadhu." The pinnacle of righteousness and virtue and good is humility and humbleness. It's defined, what is defined by the ulama of akhlaq? It's defined when the human being, for the sake of Allah, number one, very important, for the sake of Allah, looks at others and considers everyone else better than them, and at the same time considers whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon him or her to be a favor that he or she recognizes could be taken away from them at any moment, but at the same time they are grateful for. So you can see several dimensions here. Number one is about how we view others. Number two is about what we have and what we possess and what we own, in terms of, number one, knowing that we could lose it any moment, and number two, that we have to be thankful and grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it. And interestingly, we find in Dua Makarimul Akhlaq a very beautiful supplication of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, as-Sajjad. In this dua, there are a number of treasures, as many of his supplications indeed contain these wonderful lessons. And in this dua, there is this section regarding the yearning towards humility and tawadhu. He prays to Allah, he says, "Ilahi la tarfa'ni 'inda an-nasi darajatan." Oh Allah, do not raise me in the eyes of people a level, a status, إِلَّا حَطَطْتَنِي عِنْدَ نَفْسِي مِثْلِهَا. At the same time that, oh Lord, you make people praise me and they begin to somehow see me as someone who is important or relevant or give me attention, or at least I have gone up in their eyes, as people say. You know, from today, you've really become someone special in my eyes, or someone I respect more in my eyes. Imam says, if that happens, allow me within myself to go down on how I think about myself. That one status down. Because I don't want that to impact me to think that I am someone special just because of what others have thought about. Yes, we have these football managers who call themselves the special one. That's the feeling of that they are somehow superior to others for a reason or another, due to their own conviction, which is of course false. That's why the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam wanted to make sure the people around them were humble, had the quality of tawadu, because that was crucial for those associated with the progeny of the Holy Prophet. A man by the name of Muhammad ibn Muslim, a very prominent scholar and a companion of Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, very notable in terms of the number of narrations he has narrated from those holy Imams. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam one day saw Muhammad. Now Muhammad ibn Muslim was from a very well-known rich family. And when you belong to a family which is affluent and quite established in society, sometimes that rubs off on your personality, even though you may be righteous or God conscious. Imam al-Baqir said to him, Ya Muhammad, tawada' lillah. That's it. Imam recognized. They are, the physicians of the souls, aren't they? The Amma. They can recognize when someone is, God forbid, committing something, or their actions are leading towards something which are undesirable, which is undesirable. Later, they saw Muhammad ibn Muslim sitting at the door of the mosque, perhaps in Kufa or in Medina, I do not recall, selling dates. So his tribe, his community, his people, his family came to him and said, what are you doing? You are disgracing us. Why are you selling dates at this place? He said to them, this is one way that I am working this jihad on nafs. Yes, each person can think of ways themselves to break the idols of arrogance and pride in their hearts. And Muhammad ibn Muslim recognized that by selling dates to people, he will begin to think that, this wealth is nothing. It does not give me anything except if I use it in the correct manner. And it should not influence my behavior or my conduct with others. Because at the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, there was once in his masjid a man who was quite rich. And when a poor man came and sat next to him, the rich man somehow moved his abba in a bit of in a direction to say, I don't want my clothing to kind of touch you, because perhaps that person, Allahu A'lam, for some reason or another, he wanted to somehow, distance himself. So the Prophet saw that and rebuked this man. Said, why did you do this? On what basis? This man felt ashamed, embarrassed. He said, Ya Rasulullah, because of what I've done, I would like to gift this poor man half of my wealth. Half of my wealth is for him because of what I've done. The Prophet said to this man, would you take half of his wealth? He said, no. He said, why? He said, just in case I turn out like him and do what he's done. So these people, even half of the wealth he doesn't want because of their behavior. How will an individual who sees themselves important in society because of wealth, because of a particular position, because of knowledge, react when they come across others in society? That's a detrimental element. And that's why we are told that Prophet Isa, ala nabiyyina wa ala alihi wa alayhi afdal salatu wassalam, in our narrations, we have a number of very important, beautiful narrations in the books of hadith that talk about Isa alayhi salam. We have a book by the name of Jesus in Shia narrations or Shia traditions, something like that. It groups some of these narrations. And we are told that one day Isa alayhi salam looks at his disciples and began to wash their feet. Of course, this is a story that's shared in other denominations and other faiths as well, of course, including Christianity. And when he began to do that, they asked why. He said, so that you humble yourselves before the community. Because they see their leader washing their feet, or their prophet. Yes? So they see an example, lest they think that, they're above everyone else. So they would indeed act in the footsteps of Prophet Isa alayhi salam. Now, within the teachings of the Ahl al-Bayt, it is mentioned that there are groups, everybody should strive to remove any ounce of arrogance that exists within their hearts. And we spoke about last week what we can do to eradicate takabbur from our souls. But there are groups of people whom the narrations point to as those who should strive harder than others, who should be more humble than others, so to speak. One, the rich, for obvious reasons. Number two, those who have power and have certain positions. There's a story of Ali ibn Yaqtin. Ali ibn Yaqtin was a person who worked in the government of Harun al-Abbasi. And one day Ali ibn Yaqtin wanted to see Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. He came to in Medina, knocked on the door, and Imam said, I don't want to see him. And he was a muwali. Imam had given him permission to be in the government of Harun in the condition that he helps the believers and he does not practice injustice to anyone. So when he asked why the Imam doesn't want to see him, he was told because there was a man by the name of Ibrahim al-Jammal who had come to see Ali ibn Yaqtin for a help, for assistance, and Ali ibn Yaqtin had turned him away for no reason other than sometimes people don't feel like it. So he was so embarrassed. The narrations tell us of a number of occurrences, but in any case, he went to the house of Ibrahim al-Jammal, this Ali ibn Yaqtin, knocked on the door. Ibrahim al-Jammal opened the door, saw this minister or someone who works in the government of Harun right before him, and said, how come you're here? I came to see you. I waited so long and you wouldn't want to see me. He said, I've come to ask for forgiveness. I've come to ask that you pardon. He said, no, I don't want to. In between brackets, we have these people out there. Sometimes in Hajj, I was asked questions by several of the brothers and sisters. They say, well, I know when we come to Hajj, we must have asked for pardon and forgiveness from people. But there are people who just say, I will not forgive you. What happens then? What do we do? Well, we can't really force them to forgive us. Well, as long as you've tried, and between you and Allah, you know if you've tried well. And trust me, if you send a message, I'm sorry, that's maybe not enough. You have to, maybe perhaps, and it's subjective, but perhaps you need to try a bit more. Send a gift, go to visit them, and if they've turned you away, they've turned you away. And the decision and the outcome is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the day. If you've taken away their rights or if you've spoken wrongly about them and so on, at least you have tried earnestly and sincerely. So this man would say, I don't want to do anything, I don't want to forgive you. This Ali ibn Yaqtin, who is a good companion of Imam al-Kadhim, falls onto the feet of Ibrahim al-Jammal and starts kissing the feet of him and says, I beg you forgive me, to that extent. And later when he went back to see the Imam welcomed him. Yeah? So the people of authority as well as scholars, as we mentioned, the people of ilm are highlighted as some of the key areas of people who should be of the most humble. What qualities finally should a humble person, a mutawadhi, have? This is perhaps a very critical discussion or part of the discussion here. How do we know if we're humble or not? How do we know if we're mutawadhi or not? There are some, this is not an exhaustive list, but some that are mentioned in riwayat and elaborated further by ulama of akhlaq. Such as this riwayah from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. He was asked, "Mat tawadhu?" What is humility? He said, "An tarda min al-majlisi biduna sharafik." That you come to a place, you expect to be treated in a particular way, you're not. You're happy with that. You don't expect to be, for example, seated in a particular area or called a particular title. And if you're not, you get all upset about it. Oh, they disrespected me. Do you know who I am? Yeah. Number 2, وَأَن تُسَلِّمْ عَلَى مَنْ لَقِيتَ. You greet the ones that you see. Subhanallah. The A'immah have emphasized that to greet people when you see them is a sign of tawadhu. To initiate the salam, to begin the greeting is a sign of tawadhu. And of course to reciprocate or to answer is wajib. Yeah, but to initiate it is also important. وَأَن تَتْرُكَ الْمِرَاءَ وَإِن كُنْتَ مُحِقًّا. You should leave fault finding Or mira means to argue and discuss just to prove that you are right. Even though you are right, the Imam says, subhanallah. You know, sometimes we have this thing inside us, I have to show him that I'm right, or her. Imam says to leave that, even though you may be right. وَإِن كُنْتَ مُحِقًّا. Now, there are other characteristics that have been displayed or told to us in the world of hadith, as well as in the Holy Qur'an. Of course, above that, the Qur'an here in chapter Surah Al-Isra, chapter 17, verse 37, talks to us about the importance of, displaying humility even in our conduct and in the way we walk, in the way we speak, in the way we interact. Do not walk and engage as it's a metaphor for engaging. Walking is like a journey in this world with the feeling that you own everything and that everything somehow surrounded or associated with oneself. You will not be able to encapsulate the earth, neither will you be able to go up or to fill the mountains in terms of its height. Just one human being with so many limitations. Signs of those who are mutawadi include, as we mentioned, initiating the salam and greeting people, accepting criticism and feedback, and not necessarily reacting adversely to it if it is criticism which is constructive or it is done in a sincere manner. Sometimes people rightfully get slightly upset when people are there just on a fault-finding mission. That's not criticism. It's not to make an individual better. It's certainly, if it's done in a public forum like social networking, it's certainly not criticism. This is attacking individuals. Yeah. Loving to serve, the yearning to provide service to others. Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam one day was with a group going to Hajj and he was serving them. People didn't recognize him until one person came, recognized, Yab, salamu alayka ibn Rasulillah. People said, you are Ali ibn al-Husayn and you've been serving us throughout this journey towards Mecca? He said, yes. As soon as he was recognized, he left this group and he joined another group. The desire to offer service rather than be served. That's a sign of a humble individual. The eagerness to learn and to acquire knowledge and to better oneself and to attempt to continuously deal people justly, a fair treatment, to analyze everything and to try and to strive to apply adala and the notion of fairness when we are interacting with others in our daily lives are some of the recommendations with regards to this. Certainly the path towards tawadu' is a difficult one, as shaitan, who is the master of takabbur, will try to utilize every method possible to lead us towards the path of arrogance. However, the human being must begin first and foremost by relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, beseeching the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala to help them develop this virtue. But how does it start? It's all about the heart. So it is a state that begins from the heart, from the qalb, and applies into, and it's seen and manifested into the actions of the human beings. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.